first. Thank you. Yours truly, Diva Reed, in the house representing. Want to welcome everybody. All right, TikTok. Since TikTok has made so many changes, I don't have my little background up. So till they get it fixed, then I'm just gonna do what I do. Thank y'all for joining. Yours truly, Diva Reed. Hello. Welcome everybody to Louie Luggage. We're gonna go through some sports today. For those of y'all who are waiting for the law, it's coming. We're gonna get this thing started. Once again, welcome everybody. I'm yours truly, Diva Reed. Today I'm representing for Louie Luggage. We're gonna talk to sports, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. Yours truly, bringing it to you. Let's go. Hello everybody. Welcome, and welcome. I'm yours truly, Diva Reed, representing for Louie Luggage. We're dealing with everything Coach Prime and the Coach Prime Buffaloes. I'm going to say it right. Everything Coach Prime and the Coach Prime Buffaloes. Welcome, everybody. Glad you could join us, my people in TikTok. Thank you. Thank you for being here. You all know we have UNA University, and we deal with law there. We're going to be doing that. We're going to talk some law in a few minutes. But right now, I got to get into some sports. And so I want y'all to join me, all right? I welcome you to join me in this conversation. You all can visit us over at Louie Luggage, all right? Louie Luggage, either on TikTok or on YouTube. That's Louis Luggage. Louis Luggage on TikTok or YouTube. Y'all know my TikTok channel. I got to wait till I get a certain number of people. And then I can go over there and talk. But right now I'm talking to you. Welcome, y'all. Help a sister out. Join us over there as we go into these sports. We're dealing with Coach Prime, or Deion Sanders, as some of y'all know him as. Dealing with Deion Sanders, the Louie Luggage, the Colorado Buffaloes team, and what's going on there. All right, let's do it. Now, we're coming off of a very bad and sad loss against Stanford, a team that was expected to be beaten by CU, as this team was 1-4, one win, 4 losses on the season, and Colorado had the hot hand, and they were expected to win this game, and they did not. They did not pull it off. They lost it in double overtime by a field goal. All right. So for those of y'all who don't know, y'all live under a rock like me. I need to recap a few things so we understand what has happened. All right. Final score 42-45. Stanford beats Colorado by a field goal once again in double overtime. Now, uh, Colorado was winning the game, and I got to recap because there's one or two people in here who didn't hear the news. All right, so I need to recap it. So bear with me. Thank you. All right, so there was Colorado winning 29 to nothing in the first half. They had totally dominated Stanford, excuse me. They had totally dominated Stanford. And so Stanford at this point could not move. They couldn't move the ball. They couldn't score. They tried the field goal. It didn't work. Okay. Come back in the second half. And it was a totally different game with two totally different teams. They swapped sides. And you kept hearing this word every time you hear people talk about it. Momentum. The momentum shifted. And all of a sudden, Stanford formed a comeback. And for whatever reason, Colorado was unable to stop the bleeding. They were undisciplined. They had more penalties than they've ever had, 17. We're not going to talk about how many yards. And then there were plays that were played against Colorado's defense over and over and over and over. And I mean, I could go on and over. They were, and they could not stop it. The same play, by the way. I'm not being facetious when I say that. The same play was run against Colorado over and over and over and over and over. And I continue over, and they failed to stop it. So they lost that game. And now I want to go into some things about what's coming up. Right. First of all, I want to start with my segment here. I told y'all. I told y'all. I told y'all. All right. You know how some people are, I hate to say I told you so. Well, I don't. I like to say I told you. I told y'all. So we're gonna get into this. What I said, have been saying this whole season. All right. Um, when we were looking at the game against game number 3, well, we had Nevada, and they had a little bit of a running game. But in game number 3, Colorado was having a very difficult time running the ball, or they were failing to run the ball for whatever reason. They were trying to run one of their smaller backs, and their smaller backs just was not getting the job done. This was game number 3. Game number 4 came against Oregon. By this time, this is one of the things that I had mentioned about what Coach Prime said. Game number 3, game number 4 comes up against Oregon. And before that game, Coach Prime had mentioned, and all of the reporters were asking him, well, what are y'all going to do about the run? Are you going to commit more to the run? And Coach Prime was like, nope, we're not going to just keep doing things just to be doing them. All right. So he was letting everybody know we're not good at this run, so we're going to abandon this and we're just going to do what we're good at. Well, then you just told everybody, you just projected to everybody, we're not going to run, so just go ahead and rush us because we have not prepared a running game. All right. So I told y'all, especially after game number 4, they better implement a run. They better figure out how to implement a run. All right. And then when they started running the ball against USC in game number 5, well, that was at the end, the second half. In the second half of the game, and then they formed a comeback pretty much the way Stanford formed a comeback on Colorado, except USC held on to their game. Colorado could not. All right. So I told y'all, they better implement a running game. And when they do, when they implement or stick to their running game, they have a better chance of winning. They're able to move the ball better. Because why? They're giving different looks now. For whatever reason, they have hired or brought in all of these highly touted running backs, but they're not putting them to work. I don't understand that. I'm going to get into that later. But again, I told y'all, they better run. And one of the things we have seen is that Shador runs more. Great. He runs more. And then when he runs more, his running backs run more, he gets more time to throw when it's time for him to throw. All right. The other thing I said, this is key. They better have the ability to adjust. And I'm going to say this again, teams that adjust the fastest are the ones that win the game. You have to be able to adjust to what's coming at you. If you're just sitting there looking at it and you keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, uh, I don't know if y'all know this, but that's called insanity. Insanity. When you do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result, that's insanity. And as I have been saying, hey, we can't be insane over here because you can't win games when you're playing insane. You can't win games when you're playing insane. Okay. All right. I told y'all, you better be able to adjust or you can't win the game because you're playing insane. All right. The other thing I said, Coach Prime was right in their win against ASU, which was game number game number 6. Yeah, that was after the USC loss. They came back and they played ASU, another team that they were expected to beat handily. As a matter of fact, let me rephrase that because ASU was expected to beat Colorado. They had ASU over Colorado. And so Colorado comes in and they do win the game, but barely. They had them beat in the second half going into the fourth quarter. But then they allowed this team to come back down the field and almost tie the game. All right. So they barely won that ASU game 24-27. Barely. But they did pull it out. Now, Coach Prime was highly upset. Oh, he was highly upset. And I got to tell you something. I was with him. I was totally in agreement with him. Why? Because you have to dominate these games that you're supposed to win. And they did not dominate. They barely pulled that out. And he knew that there's going to be a team that you come up against that's not going to allow you to lackluster your way through this game. Well, that's what happened. That's what happened. They met Stanford. And one of the things that has been said, because I've seen a few of Stanford's games, but one of the things that had been said is that this is a team whose record is not indicative of their talent, meaning they have a lot of talent, they have a lot of skill, but they're getting beat barely. They're not really performing to the level that they can. Well, Colorado came in the first half of Stanford and they were dominant in the first quarter. But some kind of way they must have went in the locker room and ate some turkey from Thanksgiving and fell asleep. Because when they came back out, that was a whole nother team. And there was a whole nother Stanford team ready for them. Because they had adjusted. They had adjusted. All right. So again, I told y'all that ASU game, Coach Prime was right to be upset about it. Because everybody was like, oh, wait, it don't matter. A win is a win, is a win, is a no. What do you mean to tell me a win is a win when you're not recognizing how these guys have been playing and the fact that somebody's going to meet up against them or come up against them and they're not going to be able to pull it out with that kind of play? There's an issue there that should have been taken care of, but it wasn't. Even though Coach Prime was upset about it, that didn't get taken care of. Well, we thought it did. We thought it did in the first half. But in the second half, no, it was clear that there was an issue that was so deep. And I think, I'm going to say this again, I think that the weather played a role. And I had been saying this, well, actually, I was thinking it. I didn't say it because I was thinking Coach Prime was going to do what he needs to do. But there's a difference between playing indoors and practicing indoors than practicing outside in the cold weather. All right. Everybody be like, oh, this part of Colorado, we in the high temperature. You don't really feel the cold weather. You go out in it. Okay, you got to play out here in this, and then you got to concentrate. It's very difficult to concentrate when it's cold. It's very difficult. There's one thing when you in a hot heat and whatever. Okay, it gets hot or whatever, and you get whatever your antsiness is. But when you're in a situation where it's cold, your hands are cold, you freezing, and it kind of gets miserable. You get miserable. And then when you get miserable, you start complaining about things like you saw in that game when they started arguing and bickering with each other in that second half. All right. But I told y'all. The other thing I told y'all before the game last week, I said no sacks and no heart attacks. I said no sacks and no heart attacks. What was I talking about? I was talking about the fact that Colorado has already been showing us who they are. They've been showing you, well, we got to have adversity. Otherwise, we just can't play. We got to be almost ready to win the game or lose the game rather before we decide we're going to show up and play. And then the fans over here watching this, we having heart attacks, just like we was having a heart attack when we watching this ASU game. We flatlined when we watched that Oregon game. Well, we was having a heart attack when we watching this game with Stanford, but we flatlined because this team, some kind of way, blew a 29-point lead. I said, and I told y'all, no sacks and no heart attacks. But I also told y'all this team, that's how they've been doing the whole season, giving us heart attacks. And that's what they're going to keep them. If you're watching, you're going to have heart attacks. They're going to have you where you on the edge of your seat. Ooh, can they do it? They can do it. No, they can't. Okay. So, I told y'all some things, and they have come to fruition this season. So, I want to get into this next topic because I just I told y'all, went through that. I want to get into this next topic. Game examination. Want to go back through the game and just examine some things and some questions that have come up about this game with Stanford. Okay. Want to examine some questions and just go through it. Give my take on it. Now, penalties. We saw that Colorado had an enormous amount of penalties, and that's really one of the things that lost the game for them. That's one of the things that lost the game for them. The fact that they had so many penalties, they had no discipline whatsoever. All right. Then the question was, we saw them unraveling in the second half, and especially in particular the fourth quarter. They were unraveling. They weren't playing in their right minds. All kind of penalties, arguing, talking back to the coaches. We saw this. Why didn't we call a timeout? Now y'all know Colorado is good for messing over their timeouts. All right, they good for that. They ended regulation with all three of their timeouts. Somebody call a timeout so we can get these guys together. We can get them in their right mind. We can get them to take a deep breath and focus. Why we didn't call a timeout there? In the first half, you got all these personnel issues and not getting on and off the field, but you really need one when you keep having penalty after penalty after penalty, and you get a stop, and then somebody throws a penalty and causes them a first down when you just needed one stop. Call a timeout, please. But you ended regulation after they had come back 30 points to tie the game, or 29 points, or no, actually by that time they had made 30 points. Call a timeout. We just needed one stop. But you in regulation with all. I gotta laugh because all these times Colorado has come down to the end of regulation And they did not have not one timeout. But then when they needed to use a timeout, they end up with all three timeouts, and then let this team score 30 points on them and not took not one timeout. Okay. Woosah. Okay, that was just a question. What's going on that you didn't take a timeout? All right, I had to get into this. This whole question came up about, was Travis playing too many snaps? Because yeah, he was dominating on the offensive side of the ball, but on the defensive side, he was getting dominated in the second half. And no, he didn't look like himself. He didn't look fresh enough to take it. But at the same time, they really didn't have anybody else. That was one of the problems. As tired as he was, as overworked as he was, they didn't have anybody else that really could have come in there and helped out. What should have been done was a coaching move. And this is something I want to talk about real quick, and I'm gonna go into one more topic, and then we're gonna get out of here. But I was listening to Michael Irvin, and I want to give a shout out to Undisputed because I really do like that new lineup they have, even though it's not doing that well. I like Michael Irvin and Keyshawn Johnson in that position. I think they do a good job. But Michael Irvin talked about this, and he says, I remember Deion Sanders played against us, his team, whatever that team was, and he said their team beat Michael Irvin's team. Coach Prime's team beat Michael Irvin's team, and Michael Irvin was the number one receiver, and they had to stop Michael Irvin. Now, this is what Michael Irvin says Coach Prime said. He says, uh, Coach Prime had told his coach, he said, I know I'm the number one cornerback on the team, but they're going to expect me to play Michael Irvin. My suggestion is that you put two guys on him, one underneath to cut off the passing lane and one over the top of him to cut him off in the back. And then you let me take the second guy, the number two guy. You let me take him. And you put two guys on Michael Irvin, and we're going to stop him. And that's exactly what happened. That's what Michael Irvin says. Because after the game, Michael Irvin says he asked Coach Prime why he ended up switching off and going to the number two player. And Coach Prime says he told the coach this is what they should do. And that's what they did. And that's how they beat Michael Irvin's team, because they were able to keep the ball out of his hands. That was the same exact situation that happened in Stanford, where they threw not one, and not two, not three, and not but eight. Because I told you I stopped counting after eight. It could have been more than eight, but I know there was at least 8 slant plays. And you got the commentators up in the box talking about, they can throw another slant play. They ready to fall. Our coaches don't know that. I know somebody talks about, it's crazy. It's a lot of noise. It's a lot of it's hard. You chose to be in this profession. You said, I want to be a college coach. You said, I want to play college football. If you out here, don't tell me about how hard it is. Because everybody else making it look like they can do it. You got to do it too. You mean tell me they can adjust, but you can't, but you want to tell me how hard it is? That's not how this works. You chose this profession. So, the question was Travis Hunter taking too many snaps? And I say, yes, but they didn't have a choice. The real issue is, why didn't they, Coach Prime, these things, how to coach. Why you did this before with Michael Irvin? Why wouldn't you do it when it comes to your team that's in the same exact position? That boggles my mind. That question comes up for me on this. I'm not saying I'm here to answer it, but these are the questions. I can't answer it because I'm not coaching. But the question is there. All right. So we understand what happened with Travis. We go, again, yeah, he took too many snaps, but they needed him. And we're going to talk about this too. they were playing with a different defensive format. This was a totally different defense. They had to move Woods from his position, which is where he tends to make a lot of interceptions, to a whole nother linebacker position. And then you got people on the line who's supposed to be playing on the line or linebacker. They not there for whatever reason. Where is Juju Mitchell? You understand what I'm saying? Listen, a lot of people say, well, it's the same team just because they had players in different positions and one was missing. Listen, again, I've played sports and I've done all kind of team activities where you have to have people in place. This is your job. I need you in place to do this. I've had teams where I have had to replace one player with somebody else. It's like, okay, the week before we go out and we do this event or whatever it is, and we killing it. I'm saying bringing it to life. We won this, okay? That was this week. The next week I got to switch this player out and put another player in it. It's a whole different team now. It's not the same. The next week we lost. Why? This not the same team. Because you got to have people who know that's why you're talking about that jail. You got jail together. Uh Trevor Woods is not used to playing a position where he was and being in that position. That makes him prone to make mistakes. That makes him prone to make mistakes in that position. That's not where he is because they have assignments. When he was in his position, he knew his assignment. Now you put him in a new position, he's prone to make mistakes. And then who's back here? And then who are these other people playing linebacker trying to cover for these people who are out? The questions, where they at? Where they at? What Juju Mitchell at? All right. They had poor tackling. I'm just recapping and re-examining this game. Poor tackling. Again, they've been poor tackling, but it doesn't help when the weather is cold. They gotta get used to the cold weather up here because they're gonna be playing in some snow. All right, and then last on this section, not enough blame as far as I'm concerned. Everybody wants to go off on the players. Not enough blame is being put on the coaching. Not nearly enough, not nearly nary, not enough. I get it. You saying to me, well, we called the plays and okay. Um, that's all coaching. All of that has to do with, did you coach them up right? So I'm gonna say this. At this point, you know, the players do have to step in. You're going to start putting everything on the players. The players do have to step in. Shiloh need to step in on the defense, and because we're finding that they can only play 20 hours. The coaches, they can only keep them in practice for 20 hours a week. Shiloh on the defense, he needs to get his team together. Pull them up on the side, and you need to give them these speeches outside of those 20 hours. And y'all, if you're talking about film time and all this, Shiloh need to step up as a leader. On the offense, Shador. Shador, who's that one who's always, I ain't here to motivate you. You gotta be a coach of your estate. Thank you, Anpu. Okay, thank you. So Shiloh and Shador need to step on the offense and pull his offensive line together and give them some plays on, okay, now this happened, and I need you to do this. He's gonna have to step up now because the coaches, and I'm saying this, I know this is coming off harsh, they're not doing their job. They're not doing their job. And there's not, I feel there's not enough blame on them because when you start talking about somebody running the same play on your team 8 times and you don't put in something to stop that, that is not a player issue. That's not a player issue. All of them have more experience than these players. They should know how to stop somebody running the same play on them 8 times. That's coaching. That's a coaching issue. And so for me, Again, I get it. The player, and I'm not saying this to be harsh or hard or disrespectful. I love Coach Prime. I'm a Coach Prime fan. But this product has issues. And we're going to be truthful and realistic about it. We're not going to just sugarcoat it. That's not what we do. As much as this is called Louie Luggage, and we got to clean the luggage up. All right? So I want to go into this next section, and we're going to get into what Colorado can expect from here on out. What Colorado can expect from here on out. They have been exposed. Colorado has been exposed as far as not only the offensive line had already been exposed. As I said in the last session, I did them po babies. You keep trying to expect them to do things when they have already told you who they were, and everybody wants to blame them, but they're not the problem. You don't have a running game. And then you got Coach Prime up here going, we're not going to do the run. Well, what you think they're going to do? You just told me you got a sorry offensive line and that you're not going to run. Well, that's easy. That's easy. We just going to rush them the whole game. We just going to keep sacking Shador. And that's exactly what they've been doing. That's not the offensive line's fault. Okay? So we're talking right now about what they can expect. They can expect a whole bunch of slants being run on them because the whole on all as concerning their defense, you're gonna see these offenses on the other team. They're gonna run slants for days, and they're gonna dare you to stop them. And they're gonna have if they got more than two players or even just two players that know how to run a slant and they know how to get open. They're going to run slants. They're going to also keep running crossing plays because Colorado has shown they still don't know how to stop that. They can't stop the slant. They can expect more of that. They have been exposed now. And everybody who was watching that game and has been watching these other games and seeing that they do the same thing over and over again and seeing that their coaching staff has the inability to adjust to a situation, well, then I already know. If you don't know how to adjust and you don't know how to get your players to adjust, that's a coaching issue. And you can expect more slants, more crossing plays, and more running. You're gonna expect so they're gonna hit you. They're gonna hit you with the run in the with a gut blow, and then they're gonna pop you in the forehead with a slant. And then when they really want to get you, they're going to do some crossing plays. Hit you in the eye. They're really going to come at Colorado with those plays. I told y'all. I told y'all. Watch. Slants, crossing plays, and the run. That's going to be how these teams really come at Colorado because they're going to challenge it. Because those are the areas where they've shown they don't know how to adjust. And I've talked about the poor poor inability to tackle, poor tackle. All right, that's on the offense. That's what their offense is going to do to Colorado's defense. On the defensive side, they're going to run. They're going to rush. They're going to rush, and then they're going to run crossing patterns on the offensive line to confuse them because they have shown that they don't know how to handle that situation. These other teams have been able to get Colorado's offensive line so discombobulated to the point where they have three guys over here on one man. Meanwhile, you got two of them with a wide open lane to the quarterback. Yeah, that's coaching. That's coaching. All right. So that's what we can expect. Also, there's no fear of Travis Hunter. At this point, nah. After that boy number 13 caught the ball on the back of the helmet of Travis Hunter, there ain't no fear of Travis Hunter. I think he's a great defensive back. or a very good defensive back. He didn't look good in this game. And this is a team once again that was is considered one of the worst teams in that particular conference. And Colorado was beaten by that team. Nobody is going to fear him anymore over. They're gonna throw the ball. They're gonna challenge him. It's like, oh, you're supposed to be all that. Okay, yeah, let's whatever. He's gonna be challenged. And so one of the things that I saw when Travis came back, and again, I wanted him to play this game because he needed to get his strength back up. Everybody's like, oh no, you just rest, you just rest. You can't just keep resting. You got to come out and play because there's a difference between playing and practice. You can practice hard, that's great, but when you get in a game, let me tell you, I know this again. Not only did I play sports, but I was an entertainer as well. Still am. But there's one thing when I'm in practice and I'm singing or I'm rapping or I'm doing what I do in practice and I'm going hard. It's another thing when I get on stage and I'm in front of this crowd and this audience. It's a different type of energy that you exert. And it's no different when you playing football and you get out there and you in front of all these crowds. It's a different level of energy that is exerted. You practicing, you indoors. Or you're practicing during the day. It's nice and sunny outside. There's a difference. Then you going out here when it's cold and the wind is blowing and you got all these people out here. There's a difference. All right. So you can expect these teams, to challenge Travis real hard this time. They're going to challenge him now. And they're going to challenge the whole secondary. I hope they get their defense back intact because I'm going to say this. I felt that their secondary was not terrible. Now they didn't show up in that game against Stanford at all, but their secondary tended to be a good takeaway secondary. They didn't have not one takeaway in that game. So I hope that they put their defense back together where it was, put the players back into place because they dismantled the defense. And when they dismantled their defense, Stanford dismantled that team. All right. So you can just expect them to challenge that defense, especially that secondary. That secondary was a good takeaway secondary. You can expect some plays going back the other way with that secondary. They ain't do none of that this game. They couldn't even stop anybody this game. And the other thing is that team, that secondary was good with stops. They were able to stop it. They weren't great, but they would be able, what they call them, bend don't break defense. They weren't great, but they could make some stops. They weren't doing that. We just needed one. And then when they got to stop, we know what happened. I won't go into it again. All right. I want to talk about my expectations and then I'm gonna get out of here. I want to get out of here. Um, my expectations, two main things. I expected better coaching, meaning that they would be able to adjust. All right, just when you see things, be able to put people into positions to stop them. When I and this is not the first time with Stanford where somebody has done play after play after play after play over and over again and they didn't stop it. It's been happening the whole year. Again, going back to the crossing routes that the defense will get slanted, crossed up on, rather, is what I'm trying to say. So going back to the crossing routes where the defense would get crossed up on, and I'm telling you, I used to run those plays. I told you I used to play sports. And when I would play, the crossing route was my main play that I ran to discombobulate the defense on the other team. Why? Because I get them slamming into each other. They bumping heads with each other and they start arguing. I'm trying to get this way. You in my way. Get out the way. I'm trying to go this. Well, I was trying to go that way because he was. Next thing you know, we win in the game because they arguing with each other. That's how you do it. And that's what these teams have been doing to Colorado. But I would be expecting a coach to be able to stop that. I was expecting better coaching this season. I was expecting more discipline. As much as Coach Prime goes in on being old school and holding them accountable when they have all these penalties, as much as he goes in on that, I was expecting that this team would be more disciplined, and they're not. And so that's the thing. Those two things right there. Those two things right there are why they're not at least they should be right now one loss. They should be what, 6-1? That USC game, if they were more disciplined and at least were able to move the ball, if they had adjusted a little bit more, they'd be 7-1 right now. Discipline and coaching, those two things is what's keeping them from being winning all the games. Now Oregon, yeah, that's coaching too. That's coaching too. Because why? What was the problem? They didn't have a running game, and they kept trying to throw it. You kept trying to throw it. They kept trying to throw it, and then they mad about how Shadur is getting sacked. Excuse me, your offensive line has told everybody they not good. Everybody knew that. Who didn't know that coming into the game? And Pooh says, give him a chance. Give who a chance? Who you talking about, Coach Prime? Coach Prime, I'm a fan of Coach Prime. All right, let's make that clear. I'm giving him more than a chance. That I'm a fan regardless of how this team plays. I know he's a winner. I know that. So it's not that I'm coming down on them. We're speaking this because we have to speak the facts. We don't just sugarcoat things, because why? We want them to get better. They don't get better just by saying, "Oh, and that's okay. We get them next time." That's what they said after ASU when they barely pulled that 24-27 victory out. That's what they said. It's okay. A win is a win. And then they come back and lose to a team that they were supposed to beat. ASU, they were not expected to beat ASU. But Stanford, they had an 11.5 spread going at the gambling place in favor of Colorado. So after ASU, that was that, oh, it's okay, you won. It's good. We'll do better next time. No. Somebody needed to put a foot down right then, because somebody knew, which is why Coach Prime was frustrated. You're going to come up against a team that's not going to allow this. And that's exactly what happened in this game. All right. So it's not that I'm not giving them a chance. We got to tell the facts, because if you don't tell the facts, then they don't get it. And they keep doing the same thing. And then we over here as fans, like head hurting, sad, miserable. I'm going to tell y'all something. I used to be a Falcons fan. I grew up in Atlanta. And my mother is a Falcons fan, or was a Falcons fan. And the thing about it was, for me, I had to remove myself from that. Why? Because I had to recognize they're just not a good team. I don't know what they're doing now, because it's been over, a long time. It's been a long time since I've watched football. I don't even watch football, NFL anymore. But I had to remove myself from that for the simple fact that when they would lose, I would feel so terrible. And I'm like, I didn't even play the game. Why I feel so bad? I felt terrible because I was with them emotionally. I wanted them to win. I was like, but this team is not worthy of that, because we know they don't have the environment, or they didn't have at that time. I don't know what they have now. They didn't have the environment to win. So I had to stop. I'm like, okay, because I don't want that kind of misery. One of the things about Coach Prime, this is not normal for him. All of his teams that he's had, they're dominant. He has had dominant teams. And so with this situation, he's here with this team that is playing lackluster. If they don't get it together, they might end up maybe 6-6. If maybe 5-6 if they don't get it together. If that, they could end up 4-6. I I see. If it's me, I'm saying this team has the ability to win every game. Every game that they have coming up. But they have to, first of all, be able to adjust. That's a coaching issue. And if nobody's pointing that out, this is why I'm saying I'm not coming down on them like, oh, I hate this team. No. I'm saying if nobody's pointing out the fact that there is a coaching issue, I'm saying it. Somebody could come down on me. They might be, oh, Diva, you hating. No, I'm not. I'm telling the facts. There's a coaching issue. And if they don't get it fixed, if they're not learning how to adjust on the fly, you mean tell me you got NFL coaches, people who played in the NFL, and Coach Prime up in there, the best player, corner player in the league, and all these other highly touted coaches, and you don't know how to adjust on the fly? Well, really? What you go through putting all them people together for? You could have got people off the street to do that. No. Don't talk to me about how it's hard. You said you want to do this. I'm watching you. I'm watching your product. Fix it. Coaching and discipline. They get them two things in, they can beat everybody else because they have the talent. They have the talent. Coaching and discipline. Can you adjust? That is across the board. It don't care. It doesn't matter what industry you in. It could be bowling, basketball, football, tennis, whatever it is. You got to be able to adjust to what's being thrown at you. If you can't, you can't win. You can't win. All right. Now, as I get out of here, I want to say this. I'm not saying that Colorado is not a good team. But what I am saying is they haven't shown us that they are a good team. They've shown us that they have the ability to be good or great, but are they making the plays? Are they showing the discipline? Are they making the adjustments? I look for Colorado to really step it up, at least in this next game. At least in this next game. And definitely, I do look to see them in a bowl game, but I also look to see them being a dominant team. And I said this the last session. I'm going to say this and I'm going to get out of here. Uh, Coach Prime is going to start with him. He is key. And that means he needs to get his spiritual, because all of this is spiritual. I don't, y'all look at me like, what you talking about spiritual diva? This is just a football game. This is well, why they praying in the end zone? What's that all about? Come out the end zone and stop praying and just go play. If it's just all about playing the game, there's something more to this. And I told you all, if y'all didn't see my last session, go check it out, please. By the way, y'all can find us at Louie Luggage on YouTube and Louie Luggage on TikTok. I hope y'all subscribe and share. I hope to have more conversations like this with y'all because I do want to be able to talk about this. But the thing is, everything starts with spiritual, and Coach Prime knows that. His team is a reflection of him. When they're bickering and they're arguing and they're frustrated, whatever, they're acting out or doing whatever, they're reflecting him. So once he gets in order, they're going to come in order. And I hope he continues to feed them spiritually with his voice, with his words, because they need that. They need that. They hang on his word. They're not the only one hanging on his words either. We all do. We all appreciate what he says. But at any rate, Colorado, we got them coming. They're on a bye this week. They're on a bye, meaning they're out. They won't be playing. They're coming back. They're supposed to be playing UCLA the following week. They're expected to lose that game too. But then Colorado is one of those teams I told you, they keep you on the edge of your seat, give you heart attacks. But we're going to see what they do this season. I do expect them to. I want to see some changes. That's all. I need the coaches. Somebody need to get in them. And all they doing is, complaining about the players and all this. Nah, dog. That's not how that works. The coaches are to blame. heavily for this issue that's going on right now, the coaches. And I hope they clear it up. I hope they get some communication going in there so they can fix this, because this is not how Coach Prime operates. He's used to being dominant, and I look to see them be dominant. Diva Laree, I'm ready to get out of here. I want y'all to know I love you. I appreciate you. I thank you, Diva Laree. And bye-bye. I'm out. I love you. YouTube, TikTok, Louie Luggage, LOUILUGGAGE. Like, subscribe. Thank you for joining. I'm out. Peace. Wait a minute. Miss Allen, thank you for joining. Well. And Pooh, thank you for joining. Thank you for the love. Thank you for speaking. Hey, Miss Allen, we're ready to come back and talk about some law in a few minutes, so stay tuned. We're gonna be right back talking about law. Diva Laree, I'm out. Bye-bye. I'm out. Bye-bye. I'm out. Bye-bye. Bye, y'all.